What's up, snappers? Welcome back to the channel. DDDREWSKY here. Today we're gonna be looking at the brand new card Hydra Stomper to see if he's worth your precious resources. We're gonna be looking at his key Synergies Counters and some decks I brewed for him. But wait, before we do that, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel. I do weekly reviews of the brand new card in Marvel Snap, so if you don't want to miss out, hit that notification bell right now. And let's get back into it. Pardon the interruption, but I want to talk about the future of this channel or this video series on YouTube. Remember that snap packs are coming. This is pretty much like the transition period. Hydra Stomper will be the first week that they introduce snap packs. So anything that I'm mentioning about like spotlights or keys or using tokens, obviously is going to be a little bit outdated, but the next video that I have will showcase the snap pack system. You can find information about snap packs that are going to be replacing the spotlight system in the Marvel Snap Discord. So if I mention anything that's spotlight related, make sure to just aim for the pack that's related to the card. So if the card is a Series 5, obviously go for the Series 5 pack. Thank you for understanding, and let's get back into the video. Now the question is, who is Hydra Stomper? Let's take a look. So Hydra Stomper in Marvel Snap is a 3-cost, 2-power card with the ongoing ability of +1 power for each time one of your cards moved this game. So I believe he has the potential of being a archetype defining card for Smoove. Maybe he'll bring back Smoove as a viable archetype in the game. I wish more people played the archetype, but again, maybe Hydra Stomper might be the card that pushes people to play the archetype. So I believe he could bring back cards like Silk, Heimdall, other Smoove type cards that I will mention in the video, but I believe that his power is going to be insane depending on how much cards you move in that game, and he has the crazy amount of power potential. So if you compare cards in Marvel Snap that exist like Hydra Stomper, just look at Morbius for discard and Goliath for ongoing. Hydra Stomper is just for Smoove, and he might be a staple in Smoove decks. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons for Hydra Stomper. So the first pro that I want to talk about is that it's a great ongoing ability for Smoove, just like Morbius and Goliath. So just imagine that he's pretty much a power card, very similar in a way with like speed. So if you enjoy Smoove, you're gonna enjoy Hydra Stomper. He's gonna be giving you all that power for all the movement that you're doing already in the deck. So another positive about him is that it's a good last turn play. He's a 3-cost card, so you can definitely run him in the last turn just to surprise your opponent. They're gonna be like, what the heck? This person has a bunch of power that I didn't expect. So you definitely have a lot of movement going on, then you can definitely get Hydra Stomper to a massive amount of power. So the last point that I want to bring up is that it could potentially count towards your opponent's cards that you've moved. So for example, Polaris or Spider-Man moving their cards, I think potentially it could raise the power of Hydra Stomper, but don't quote me on that. Obviously we don't have a chance to test the brand new cards, so I can't really confirm that, but we could say potentially it could work. If not, then obviously then don't have those cards in your deck. So now let's talk about the cons. Has a decent amount of counters. I will explain which counters can counter Hydra Stomper later in the video, and you will see that there are a good amount of counters and they're very popular in the meta. So he's dependent on moving cards and drawing them. So if you're not able to move any of the cards in your list or drawing them, it's gonna be really rough. 3-2 is definitely very low for a 3-cost card, so it really depends on your RNG. So the last point I want to bring up that's a con is that Scream is very popular and Clog might be on the rise. So Scream obviously will counter a lot of the decks that you'll be running with Hydra Stomper, a lot of movement. She loves movement decks. And with Clog, the last card that came out, Strength Supreme, does work well with Clog, and especially with all the movement that's going to be happening potentially with Hydra Stomper, Clog will definitely go up. And a lot of people are going to be trying to counter Hydra Stomper decks, so be careful of Clog. Now let's take a look at the key synergies and counters for Hydra Stomper. So the first synergy that I want to talk about is Kraven. Of course, Kraven loves movement. He gains power, and obviously Hydra Stomper gets power as well. So definitely those two cards combined, a lot of power that you potentially could have on the board. Captain America Sam Wilson is an amazing synergy with Hydra Stomper. His shield, of course, will count with all the movement that you're doing on the board. Silk is another great synergy with Hydra Stomper. I know she's not really meta relevant, but all the movement that she's going to be doing, she will definitely raise the power of Hydra Stomper with all the movement. So now let's talk about the counters. Enchantress, of course, is a counter for Hydra Stomper. He's an ongoing card, so she will remove that ability. Red Guardian is another great counter to Hydra Stomper, especially being an ongoing card and very low power. Potentially, if they play out the Hydra Stomper, then you can disable that ability. Shang-Chi is a huge counter against Hydra Stomper, especially if they play him out early, or if you can time it right. If they're above 10 power, then Shang-Chi will destroy him. Now let's take a look at the decks that I brewed. I think they're pretty fun and competitive. Let's take a look. So the first deck that we have is called Stompin Move. So this is my take on the toxic move style list. So the ideal goal of this list is to move as much cards as possible, move your opponent's cards, and counter your opponents. So Zabu is a great addition to this list, especially having 3-4 cost cards. That discount is going to be great with Zabu. Scream is just a staple in this style of move list. If you're moving your opponent's card, then Scream gets a lot of benefit. Kraven is a great power card in this list. You're going to be generating a lot of power with all the movement, so Kraven loves all that movement. Sam Wilson, Captain America, his shield is going to be doing all the movement for Hydra Stomper, so definitely great synergy there. Spider-Man is great in this list to disrupt your opponent and to move cards into the Kraven lane. Hydra Stomper is going to benefit a lot with this list, especially with Captain America's shield, Spider-Man, Polaris, Stegron, and even Cannonball. Red Guardian is just a great counter in this list, especially disabling cards that have low power. Definitely run Red Guardian. Polaris is just to disrupt your opponents, moving their cards. Hopefully it will add power to Hydra Stomper. Shang-Chi is just a staple tech card in the game. Definitely run him if you're seeing a lot of big power on the board. Enchantress is just a staple against all those ongoing cards that are in the meta. You obviously definitely don't want to run Enchantress with Hydra Stomper, so definitely avoid the Hydra Stomper lane with Enchantress. Stegron is just a great disruptor card. A lot of people don't expect Stegron, so definitely run Stegron to push the other card into the Kraven lane or just power up Hydra Stomper. Cannonball is one of the best finishers in the game, especially when a lot of people aren't expecting Cannonball. Definitely run Cannonball for the later turns. Now let's take a look at my second list. So this list is called Hydra Move Bounce. This is my iteration on the Move Bounce archetype with a little bit of flair with Hydra Stomper. Ghost Spider and Iron Fist are great one-cost cards that move other cards, so definitely want to use them and reuse them with Falcon and Beast. Human Torch benefits from all the movement from Iron Fist or Ghost Spider or even Doctor Strange. Madam Web is just a great enabler for move in this list, especially playing cards like Human Torch, Dagger, or Vulture in her lane and then just start moving them again. Dagger is another great 2-cost card in this list that scales up in power. You can move her with Doctor Strange, Iron Fist, or Ghost Spider. Falcon is just a great bounce card for all the 1-cost cards. It's not really lane dependent, so you can definitely run Falcon to bring back cards like Iron Fist, Human Torch, and Ghost Spider. Hydra Stomper just benefits from all the movement here. You can definitely run them from the later turns or on curve. Vulture is just another great power scaling card at 3 costs, so definitely run him in this list. Beast is great just to bounce back cards. It really depends on the situation of your board, but you definitely want to bounce back cards like Ghost Spider, Human Torch, Iron Fist, or even Dagger, or even Doctor Strange, and just do the process all over again. Shang-Chi is just for those pesky big power lanes that you need to counter. Heimdall is a great finisher in this list, especially if you haven't really done much movement. You can always just move all your cards at the end of the turn, and then Hydra Stomper just gets tons of value. Now let's take a look at my third and final list. So this list is called Silky, Hydra, Smoove. So this is my iteration on the Silky Smoove archetype. Shout out to Lambie. This is the Lambie creation that made him very popular in Marvel Snap. So this list has been updated with current cards in the meta. It might have some potential in being a meta archetype. So Kitty Pryde, Athena, Angela, Elsa, Bloodstone are a must-have together, especially when you're focusing on creating a lot of power in one lane. Kitty Pryde and Athena have great synergy, especially if you haven't drawn the other cards. You can just start generating a lot of power with Kitty Pryde and Athena. Kraven is just a must-have in this list with all the movement, a lot of power he's going to be generating. Sam Wilson's Captain America's shield, just like I mentioned, all the shield movement will count towards Hydra Stomper. Silk is amazing in this list, especially generating power for Hydra Stomper. You definitely want to aim to play her on the last slot of a location. Maybe juice her up with Elsa Bloodstone. Hydra Stomper is great in this list, especially with all the movement that's happening in this list. So a lot of benefit with that power. Elsa Bloodstone, you definitely want to run her on a lane that you're filling up and make sure to power up cards with her +2. Shang-Chi is just for this pesky big powered lane, so counter with Shang-Chi. Captain Marvel is great in this list to potentially win you the game, especially when you're not sure if you're going to be able to win a certain lane. You could definitely grab that last minute win. Galacta is great in this list to power up cards like Silk, Kitty Pryde, Captain Marvel, or Vision. Vision is great in this list, especially being played in a full lane if you power him up with Elsa Bloodstone or Galacta. Now let's take a look at the spotlights that are featured with Hydra Stomper. So again, just like I mentioned earlier in the video, spotlights are in transition right now. So remember, if you see anything with spotlight caches, just aim for using the current snap pack for that type of card in their series. So Hydra Stomper is with Aranya and Madam Web. They're all series 5 cards. I would say Aranya and Madam Web are definitely good cards if you like Move. If you don't like Move, and then obviously pass on these cards. But I believe that Aranya definitely has value of moving a card and giving it +1 power. And then Madam Web, that movement is awesome to just play cards in that lane, and then being able to move them is really, really good. For the spotlight variants, I'm not really huge on Hydra Stomper or Aranya. Aranya definitely has better shop variants. Hydra Stomper maybe in the future will have better variants. Madam Web, I actually do like this variant a lot. Her ultimate is obviously the best one, but if you get this one by accident, I don't think it's that bad. So remember guys, to have 4 keys or 4 spotlight caches before opening in a week, you definitely don't want to miss out on a card or a variant that you really want. And remember that the spotlight system is getting replaced with the snap pack system. So remember, if you see a series 5 card or a series 4 or 3, then make sure you aim for the pack that has those cards. Now let's take a look at the community predictions for Hydra Stomper. So the community has said S tier 12%, A tier 49%, B tier 32%, and C tier 7%. So the community is very hyped on this card. They pretty much believe that it's an A or B tier type of card. I really agree with them on that. So we'll see on the final review of Hydra Stomper. So here is a community response about Hydra Stomper. Thank you, Undead Eggmeister, again for your comments. They said, if you play Move, he is a must-have, a solid S card. But unfortunately, most don't play Move because it's so technical and difficult. Most players don't want to fiddle with such effort when they can win with easier decks. So I 100% agree with this statement. Unfortunately, a lot of people do stray away from Move. It is very fun. I love Move. I wish more people played Move. It definitely exercises your brain. A lot of people like just throwing down power and not having to think as much. So again, Hydra Stomper really depends if you like the Move archetype. S tier card potentially for Move, yeah, for sure. Especially getting that power. It's a very passive amount of power, just like Speed or Morbius, or you know, cards that really not having to think so much, and it pretty much just gains power depending on what you're already doing in the list. Now let's take a look at my start ratings for Hydra Stomper. So for competitive, I gave him a 4 stars. I believe his power is gonna be great. It really depends on how much movement you do, but the amount of power for a 3-cost card, I think should be pretty good and very competitive. For fun, I gave him a 1.5 stars. I know a lot of people don't really like, you know, the boring stat stick. Again, just pretend that he's kind of like the Morbius or Goliath type of card, so it's not gonna be super fun, but obviously Move, I would say, is very fun, and maybe you'll get some enjoyment from that. But the card in general, Hydra Stomper, is gonna be very boring just because, again, it's just a flat power that you're just dropping down on the board. For flexibility, I gave him a 2 stars. Of course, he's pretty much gonna be only in Move decks, but there are some wiggle room on potentially on where he could fit in. Maybe he's more of a plug and play card. But at the end of the day, if you want to utilize a lot of the power that's being generated with him, you have to have a lot of movers or movement in your list. For future changes, I gave him a 2 stars. I don't really think he's gonna get really changed or buffed or nerfed, really. I think he's pretty fair for what it is. If he gets out of hand, sure, maybe a nerf. But I would say he's pretty safe on being stable, so I don't really see much changes in the future for him. Now let's take a look at my final review of Hydra Stomper. Is he worth a snapper skip? Let's take a look. So for series 1 to 2 owners, I gave him a 2.5 stars on, you know, the cards that work well with him. Unfortunately, there are a lot of 3, 4, and 5s that make him a lot better, so I'll just give him a fair 2.5 stars. For series 3 owners, you're gonna have a lot of cards that work well with him. The decks that I featured have a lot of series 1 to 3 cards, so yeah, I would say 4 stars is fair for him. Series 4 and 5 cards, I give him a 4.5 stars. You're gonna have a majority of the cards that work well with Hydra Stomper, so I would say it's definitely safe to get him if you enjoy Move. So the archetypes that he works well with are Bounce Move, Traditional Move, and Silky Smoove. And that being said, I would say Hydra Stomper is a snap. I would say that he's definitely a safe pick if you like Move. If you don't like Move, then of course skip on this card. But I would say Hydra Stomper, if you're low on resources, definitely wait for him with snap packs. I would say he's definitely not a day one must get, but if you're a mover, if you love Move, definitely get him day one. I think the card has a lot of potential, especially hopefully bringing Move back to the limelight of Marvel Snap. Hopefully it brings back cards like Silk, some cards that we never see anymore. So what are your thoughts on Hydra Stomper? Am I completely wrong? Did I miss any synergies? Did I miss any decks that he works well with? Let me know in the comments below. So if you found this video useful, please give the video a like. Please subscribe to the channel. I would love for you to be a part of this amazing community here on YouTube. And I'll see you guys on the next Snapper Skip. Happy snapping.